Okay, so this week we covered chapters 4 and 5. So we got more if statements. So we got if statements, if else ifs, else's, nested loops, nested if structures. We also got in chapter 5 iteration. So iteration, we've got while loops and for loops and switch statement, basically. Okay. Remember, you don't ever need anything in an iteration except a while loop. You can recreate the functionality of a for loop with a while loop. So if you're ever like, I'm only going to learn one, that's okay. But in some cases, the switch or the while, sorry, switch is not iteration. That's incorrect. Switch is control. So switch takes the place of nested if else statements. But while loops and loops. And there's also the do while loops, which I don't think I've ever used in my entire life because they just seem backwards to me. The difference is a while loop always, or it's a do while loop always executes at least once, where a while loop may or may not, may never execute. So that's the only difference. Use them if you want. I've had a whole career of both programming professionally and teaching and never used a do while, so there's always a way around. But yeah, you can always use a for loop for any of those. Sorry, you always use a while loop for any of those. Okay. So what questions do you have? I've put up a couple of video workthroughs. Hopefully you've seen those. And I'll continue to do those on occasion. So what do we need to talk about?
Well, I had a question, and Virgil kind of answered it, but I still have a question based on what he said.
Yes. Oh. I saw that.
So I was doing the first problem, which was the palindrome one, yes. And I got it working, and so that like to say if it's a palindrome or not. Right. But then I was like, okay, so now I have to print out the error message if they don't enter a 5-digit number, and so right. That's what I had posted on the forum or whatever.
Right.
And so Virgil had said, think about what your number needs to look like. So my thought was, okay, so it needs to be, so I guess this is where I'm confused. So I guess you could say if the number is between 1,000 and, or 10,000 and 99,999.
Yep.
But, so I guess my question is, if they enter 00001, that's not gonna, so no zeros at the beginning.
Well, it'll ignore them is my guess. It
right.
Ignores zeros. So that's
because it ignores zeros at the, like I tried just typing in a 3-digit number, yeah. And it will say if it's a palindrome or not, but it's not correct because it's assuming there's 2 more zeros.
Right.
I think.
Right. Yeah. So 10,000 is the smallest 5-digit number.
Okay.
And 99.
So we can't enter a number with a 0 at the beginning. Okay.
I have a question about the output part of that, okay. Because there were a couple of numbers that I tested, mm-hmm. And when it would give me my my output to show that I had reversed them, mm-hmm. A couple of times the answer was like 01895 or or something like that, and it left off the 0, so it would just have a 4-digit when it would do the output.
Right.
Are you still talking about the palindrome one?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense.
I tested out lots of different numbers to see what that it was reversing them correctly for me.
Yeah, the only thing you could do, I'm trying to think right off the top of my head. There may be a formatting way to force it to a number of digits, but I don't think so. I think you would have to convert it to a string, and then you can put whatever you want, but you don't need to do that. If that's the output, I think that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that.
Yeah, and it was the same thing with my, like when I had my encrypted number, mm-hmm. and I had that happen a couple of times where the encrypted number that came back was a 3-digit instead of a 4-digit, right. And it's because there was a 0 at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't think we have the tools to handle that yet.
Okay.
So just accept that's going to be the case. Okay, because there's not a good way to force that output that I know of. There could be something in the formatting. I'll look and see. I didn't know that was an issue, but yeah, because we don't typically write leading zeros.
So Tara, I don't know how you did your palindrome one, but I made it take each individual digit and then compare the first and the last one if they were equal, and then the second and fourth one if they were equal.
That's how I started doing it. And then I ran into some problems that I couldn't figure a couple things out. So instead, what I did was I had it reverse the number and then tell if the two numbers were equal.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That does make sense. And that's good strategy. If you can't do it one way, there's always another way. But I think that's why you're having that problem. That makes sense. And that's why, Cam, that you're not having that problem, because you're taking the digits individually. But yeah, at this point, if you're getting it working and it's doing that, I'm not going to have an issue. You know, I want us to be getting programs that are working and understanding what's going on. So I think that's okay. Okay. What other questions do we have?
I had two questions. On the palindrome one, to initialize the variable, do we have to say like number 1 is equal to -1, number 2 is equal or 0?
When you initialize it, you don't have to, but you have to give it some value. It won't just have a value. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. I'm not sure what part of the program you're asking about. Was that?
Do you want me to share my screen and show you what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, let me allow screen sharing.
Okay.
Just
Which I probably started this wrong, so just look over me if I did. I just barely got it started.
It's okay. Yeah, you should be able to share now.
Okay. Can you see my screen, or do I have to hit something?
No, there's a share screen at the bottom, a little green
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay.
box. Click on that and then click which window you want to share.
Okay, I want to share this one. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, on this one, I'm not sure if I set it up right, but I started it this way. But then I was trying to initialize it by doing this. Is that the way I would get it started?
Well, I mean, so you're just putting in default values for that to start with?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the -1? Yeah, you don't need private. It doesn't hurt anything, but you don't need it.
Oh, okay.
And you could say int number 1 equals -1 all in one line. It's wrong what you're doing,
Okay, that's good.
but you can just do one line for that.
Okay, I was getting a little confused about the Sentinel values. Like I didn't know if everything had to have one, or just sometimes it would automatically. I mean, you didn't need one every time. Like I guess I get confused about that.
Yeah, it never will have a default value. Okay, so
Okay.
but it shouldn't matter, because it's gonna read in a 5-digit integer, and by read in you have options here. It doesn't say ask the user. That's probably the easiest way in some ways, but you can also just set numbers to whatever you want. So you can put number 1 is equal to 5, number 2 is equal to 7, whatever you want, and test it that way.
Okay, and like private, is that only when you're getting information, like say a person's name?
No.
Or when do private?
Yeah, private has to do if you're doing multiple classes, a class called a class and all that. We want to protect our data so it can't be changed without us knowing it, basically, other programs. It's nothing at all like privacy like you would normally think. So
okay. And I had one more question. It was about my homework last week, and I'm sure I just bombed it. But on the one I kept putting private, maybe that was my problem. But then when I would try to run it, it would say error, application error, something at the bottom. And I Googled what that error meant, and it said that I needed to include like a public static, in it. And then every time I would add that, it would say error needs a body. But then I was
Can you go back to the code you were just showing it? Because I think you're going to get the same error with what you were just showing us, actually.
Yeah.
I probably could show you all last week. Hold on just a minute. Let me see if I can get my screen.
It looked like you had a bunch of curly braces where there shouldn't be any.
Yep, that's what I saw.
Okay.
Your main has no text in it.
Right? Yeah, line 11, you're ending. That bracket ends everything before it ever starts.
Oh, okay. And I usually try to go back at the end and do stuff with those, and which I know it's got access everywhere now, but
and you don't need one
at the end of line 11 too that needs to come out.
Yeah.
And at the end of 18.
Okay. Which, like I said, I try to at the very end go back in and fix those, but because it'll And if I can get my, this was one of, let me see if I can just find one of last week's.
Okay.
Okay, this was like one of last week's. And then when I would try to run it, which watch it work this time.
No, it's not going to work. It doesn't have a main.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to.
Right
Because on those you have to create the class and then the test stuff, right? So there are two programs.
Okay, I had a test. Well, on the employee, I didn't have a test, but I did for,
Yeah.
well, yeah, the date is the one I had a test for.
Okay, and the test should run. The other one should never run. It's going to give you the error.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay, because,
run there.
yeah, I thought that I was.
Yep.
Oh, okay, well, that's good to know. So, but like this one, this was my date from last week. And so this one should always give me an error, right? Just the test would run?
Yeah, now your other errors are probably legit errors, so that's a different issue. But you shouldn't be able to. So what's it saying there? You're saying month. So you're sending in. I think that's your private. Your private's causing trouble there.
So I should just start using public, not use that word at all,
Well-
just put like temperature month.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, the problem is that you're using this underscore month, this underscore days. It looks like it's hard to tell. It's got the red stuff under, but I think you need to switch those underscores for periods.
That could be it too.
Oh, so you can't.
Or
use
if
an
those are
underscore?
underscores, you just switch them for periods.
They are underscores, so.
Yeah, it should
Okay,
be.
I didn't know that we couldn't use underscores. Somehow I missed
Well,
that one.
You're saying that this underscore month is another variable, but you haven't defined it, versus this period month is the month that's in the class.
Yeah, and if you look, it changes how it looks. It changes the color because this is a thing, and this has a month, a day, and the year. Apparently, the private wasn't hurting you at all, so that's fine. So yeah, that should be okay. At least that.
So-
Let's swear it could be useful.
You probably have to change it on line 24 too, and probably some other places.
Yeah, I'm sure I gotta
Well,
change
no,
it.
in 24, she's bringing in this month as the input to the function.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, to use it there.
Now, actually, this does bring up a question. And so back in 16 through 18, can they be assigned like that, or should it be this dot month equals month?
Yeah, I think she's going the wrong way around.
Okay,
Yeah.
probably.
Does it matter if there's something on both sides of that statement?
Yeah, equality doesn't work that way in programming. It's not equality, right? It's not an equal sign. It may look like an equal sign. It's not. It's an assignment.
Oh,
You're assigning month, which is what you sent in, the value that's already there, which wouldn't change anything. At a minimum, it wouldn't change anything, and it may give you an error. So what you're setting is this month equals month, this days equal days, and this year equal year. If you do that, that should fix that part of it.
okay. And on one of them, I don't know which one it was, but it kept saying the error, and then I Googled it and I said, why does this say an error? And it said, because you always need the public static main in the, is that true? Like you always need that there somewhere?
If you're going to run it, yes.
Oh,
See, in this case, date doesn't ever get ran. Date,
okay.
you're setting up this complex data structure that you're going to use in other programs. So when you use it over in your date test has to have an int main, public static void main.
Okay, well, maybe that's what it was. Well, now I do have it there, so let's see. Maybe that one did work.
You
Seemed
can't
like
use,
that had an error.
you can't use this in main either.
Yep, nope.
Okay, it had all kinds of errors in that one too, but
Yeah, you have to use the functions that you set up in the date .java. Okay, so if you want to change the month, you have to use a set month.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so
set month.
Dr. Frazier,
Uh-huh.
are you going to give us feedback on our assignments?
Yes. People
Okay.
are still turning them in the first ones, so I like to grade them all together. So
I would say what you want to do here is drop line 12 completely, and then just say in 13 date one dot set month equals input dot next int.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what it is.
Okay, I got a lot of work to do on those. At least it's good to know that the first program doesn't need to run just the test. So I guess if I keep getting an error, that's okay. Because I think it said you had to have the public static void main, and I thought, well, but then when I'd added, it would say it doesn't have a body, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to put for a body.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there's nothing to put. But yeah, just remember,
Okay,
you can't directly access the data. That's the whole point. So back in the day,
Mhm.
things are private, right? When you're setting up your class. So you can't get to month directly. So that's why you have the accessors and the mutators. So if you want to set the month, you have to use the set month and then on some object. So you're creating in line 9, date 1 is a new date. So that's correct. But then you want to do that, and you're doing the date month set date 1.set month. So you're doing it correctly as well there, but there's no this in this case. And that
Okay.
line 12 just, I'm not sure what you were thinking, but that's not. Oh, I know what you're doing. Okay. It makes sense. It makes sense what you're doing. You can say int month is equal to, you don't need the this, equals that variable, and
Oh,
you
okay.
put that variable in. You can do that. You just don't need to.
Oh, okay. I think I was looking at an example in the book or something and maybe copying, maybe, and maybe just copy it.
You need to move your scanner line up above before you use it too.
You do have to declare it before you use it. That's correct. Line 15, you're declaring it, but it doesn't exist.
Oh,
It's got to be the very first thing into the public static void main is usually the best place to put it.
okay. So that, I mean, I won't do it now to save time, but this needs to go online.
Yep.
Like,
It just
Well,
needs to go
experience-
above where you use next int.
Right. You can't use it till you define it.
okay, next.
Um,
Okay, I got you.
And then your 13, you would just say set month, parentheses month at this point,
Yeah.
without the this.
So I don't put date 1 dot.
It's okay.
Yeah.
This is what's wrong.
Okay, so in here I would just put month.
Because in line
Okay.
12, you're setting up a variable based on what they enter. And then line 13, you're putting that variable into the object that you've created, the date 1 object.
Okay, so that can go here,
Anywhere before you use it, right?
right? Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. That's helped a lot.
And there's a lot of fiddly little bits about that, and it does get confusing. But yeah, in those cases with the date and the employee, you're setting up a structure to maintain information about employees or about dates. So
Okay.
the abstract class that you're setting up, abstract's the wrong word because that's a loaded term in programming, but the object that, or the class that you're setting up is to make other objects, and then you're going to use them in other programs. So those other programs, and that's where the private comes in. Something that's private, your employee test can't see it. Your employee can see its own data, but another program that uses that can't. So that's why we have the accessors and the mutators. Okay, that's going
Yeah, I
to
think I was
allow access.
in private and public.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, especially compared to Python, which just doesn't care. Python just throw it all out there and it's
I
fine.
know.
So yeah, there's pros and cons to that, but yeah, it's just a lot more structured. Okay, in many ways. Okay.
I had a question about 517.
Okay.
I don't completely understand what it wants us to do.
Let me find.
So it has, these 5 products and this is what they sell for.
Right.
So we're supposed to input, a pair of numbers, product number, and how many are sold.
Right.
So I guess my first question is, that would be 2 separate inputs, right? How many, which product is it, and then how many are sold?
Yes.
Okay. So then my other question is, so it just wants us to take the total. So if they, sold 4 of product 1 and 7 of product 2 and whatever, figure out that total all together and then print that? Is that basically
Well,
what it's saying?
The switch gets you the price, right? Based on whatever. I'm gonna have to pull up my whiteboard. I can't think without writing. I'll say wait. Okay, so let's get the whiteboard popped up here. Okay.
Because I don't really understand what they mean by using the switch statement to determine that. I mean, I did read through this, but it was a couple days ago, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a question about that one too, because I didn't know if I was trying to do too much within each one of my switch statements. Like
Okay.
how Kim mentioned how it's two different inputs, but I didn't know if like you need to put the different inputs within each case for, I don't know. I think I was trying to make it too complex or too many things within one.
Right, could be. But you're going to get this product number, whatever it is, and what there are 5. Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5 products. It's 1 through 5. Okay, and then whatever the quantity is. Okay, and I assume this is in some kind of a loop, Sentinel control loop, right? So when they enter whatever the ending value is, if you enter something that's not 1 to 5, then you're going to stop. But for this first part, for the switch, okay, you're going to switch this based on the product number. Okay, and that's the idea there. But what you're really doing here, what it wants is what the total retail value. Okay, so you're going to have some variable before your loop. Okay, whatever it's called, total, and whether that's probably going to be what, a double or a float. Not a double float. That's something else different for the total. Okay, so that's going to be up there initially set to 0. And then the switch is going to be determined, okay, if it's the case that it's product 1, okay? For that case, we're going to update the total to be equal to whatever the total was, plus product 1 cost $2.98, so 2.98 times the quantity, okay? And then you're going to break. Okay. Case 2, same thing. Total is equal to total, can't write the single, plus whatever the price for the second one is, which is 450. 450 times the quantity. And then break again.
Was that all you need within each one of your cases?
Yeah.
Okay, I had more than that.
Yeah.
Well, does it, I mean, as you're inputting them,
Yes.
I guess maybe I don't understand the structure of how the case works or how the switch works.
Okay.
So like I input something and it figures out which case it is, and then it lets me put it in again and does another one.
So let's look at it.
Or does it?
These are our cases, and we'll just say that there are 3. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Okay. And this one is going to be, we're going to add to total. So we're going to do a plus. We're going to add into the total the 298 times quantity. And this is going to add the 450 times quantity. I'll put a big Q there. And then this one's going to be 998. Sorry, my handwriting's so bad. Times quantity. Okay. So, and we're keeping this total value over here somewhere. Okay. We start off at 0. So the first time through, let's say they're going to buy 10 of product 1. Okay. So we're going to go to this case and we're going to take the 298 times 10 and get 2980. We're going to add that. That becomes our new total. Okay. Then we're going to go back and ask for another one. That's the outer loop. Okay. So this time we're going to get 1 of product 2. It's now going to go here. It's going to take 450 times that 1. It's going to add a 450 to this. Okay. Go back again. This time they're going to buy 7 of product 3. So product 3, 7 of them. then it's going to add whatever 998 times 7 is. It's going to keep adding those up, okay? Until you enter a product number of -1 or 99 or whatever your Sentinel value is, then it's going to display that result, okay? So these are all, and there'll be 5 of these. I've just got 3. So there are 5 little accumulators, and that's all they do. When you tell it which one and how much, it's going to calculate the new total, add it to the total, go back and ask for another one. Keep doing that all day until you hit whatever your magic number is to get you out. Okay.
Okay, my question about the prompts then.
Mhm.
The one to ask for the product number,
Right.
like here's kind of the order that I had it. Like I have the prompt to ask for the product number.
Mhm.
And then I had the while loop with the input.has next,
Right.
like the example had shown. And
Yeah.
then I had after that enter the quantity of the product sold. And that's when you enter the switch.
Yeah, you could do it that way. You probably are going to have to ask the product more than once to get you in the loop and then once after that. Okay. So if you're going to ask for the product number here, okay,
Mhm.
then,
It was asking me twice, and I was confused about that.
yeah, so then you're going to go into your while loop here. So while the product number is not equal to 99 or whatever it is, okay? So inside of here, you're going to ask for the quantity, okay? Now you have all that you need. Now you're going to hit your switch, and it's going to add to the total in some way, like we just showed, okay? When the switch is done, then you're going to ask for the product number again. It's then going to take you back to here, whether it's either going to, you enter 99, it's out, or it's going to get the next round. Okay. So it's really common. You can avoid that with a do while, but no one likes do whiles. Okay. So you ask first, then into your while loop, then you have to ask again every time. This line executes one time only. This line executes every time you go through the loop. Okay. So again, if 99 is your magic number, if you enter 99 the first time, your total 0 and nothing happens. The while loop never gets hit.
So does your Sentinel go inside the while loop?
Yeah, you'll say here, while product not equal to 99, for example. Okay.
I actually have a couple.
If you don't ask there, then you'll have an infinite loop. It'll never stop. Yeah, Virgil, you had something?
Do we need to use a specific Sentinel, or I've got mine set up to just to exit when they enter any unused product number?
Yeah, that's okay too. I think if it's a real life program, that may be a little confusing to people if they think there's one. What I would do, I would say something like in my prompt, I would say enter product number.
Yeah, I give them the range of
or 99 to exit, or -1 to exit, or something. Or if you say enter product number 1 through 5, you still have to say or whatever to exit, because you can't assume. For the purposes of this class, I don't care. But in general, you want to make it as clear as possible to somebody else using the program how to get out.
Yeah, it's that's in my initial instruction prompt.
Yep.
And then should we be prompting separately for the quantity, or I've just got it reading 2 numbers and like it reads both numbers in the same step? Basically.
You could do that. I don't think we've done that in the book yet, but if you're doing it that way, I'm not going to fight about it.
And my third question, I also included some extra bookkeeping to keep track of how many of each sale there was, just to like print a report at the end. Is that okay, or should I take it out?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you've programmed before and you want to do more, do more. I'm not going to ever complain about that.
And then I also have one.
The only issue there is if you copy something from online that you don't understand, which that sounds like it's not the case with you at all. But yeah, if everything you turn in, you should understand. If it's past what we're doing, that's not a problem usually, unless we're doing something specific that I want to make sure you have those skills.
And then I had one question for the other one, 21.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask a question about 17 before you go?
Sure, while we're here. Yeah, let's get 70 questions out of the way. Yeah.
So I thought that it was asking for the product counts for all of those in the question.
Okay.
And so I was trying to get it to add within the cases, but that's not really how I need to do it, right?
That's not what the problem's asking for, but you could do that within the cases, but you'd have to have a separate count for each one. You have a product 1 count, product 2 count,
Right.
product 3 count. And
That
then,
was how I was setting it, but
yeah, and that's fine.
but it wasn't doing it right.
Oh, that's weird. Because then
Yeah.
inside of here, you would just have, P1 count plus plus, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All you would need to do. And you have to remember your breaks here. Because remember, switches are weird. Without a break, it's just going to go do everything.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that.
That's consistent.
It runs through all the cases.
Yep. So you got to have a break in there. Okay. Any other questions about 17 while we're on 17? Okay, let's move on to 21 then.
My question on 21 is, can we put in a break when it gets to the point that the hypotenuse is longer than the sum of the other two sides, where it wouldn't be a triangle anymore?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Remember, the break's handy. Break gets you out of any kind of repetitive structure. Continue takes you to the next loop around. Skips to the next one, basically. Skips ahead. But break gets you just of the current structure you're in.
For 21, I don't really understand, again, I get what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a table.
Yes.
It says, write an application that displays a table of all Pythagorean triples for side 1, side 2, and the hypotenuse.
Yep.
So are they asking for input for side 1 and side 2 and the hypotenuse?
No. Brute force, You're trying all of them. You're trying all possible things between 1 and 500.
So I guess I don't understand how that's supposed to kind of look.
Okay, so
I can understand if you're putting it in and saying if it's a right triangle or not.
right.
But
so it's going to be nested loops, right? So we could say for, and I'll just do pseudocode here. Well, no, let's do it right. So for int S1 equals 1, S1 less than or equal to 500, S1 plus plus. Okay. Then inside of that, you've got another one for side 2, same thing. Inside of that, you've got a 4 side 3. Okay. Then down here, you now have a side 1, side 2, side 3 that you're going to test if this is a Pythagorean. I totally spelled that wrong. You get the idea. Triple. Okay. So what this will do the first time, you're going to have the value of 1, 1, 1. Okay, here. It's going to go to 1, 1, 2, all the way to 1, 1, 500. Then it's going to go back and get a new number here and go to 1, 2, 1, all the way to 1, 2, 500, and eventually get to 500, 500, 500.
okay.
And it's brute force. And I think what Virgil's asking was, if you can determine that you're not going to get any more triangles, can you break? And you can, but you don't have to. You can run all this. Okay. So this innermost loop, this outermost loop is going to run 500 times. That's it. This one's going to run 500 times 500 times. And this one's going to run 500 times 500 times 500 times. No, that's right. Yeah, that's correct. So it's going to run a whole bunch of times, but computers are quick, so it's not a problem. That's why this is a brute force. There's no finesse here. They're not asking you to be smart. Just beat it till it dies. That's what we're doing. Okay. Does this nesting for loop make sense? Kim, I think you were the one having.
Yeah. That's what I mean, the geometry teacher that I am was like, oh, I can write this to figure out if it's but I'm like, that's not what it's asking for. And so that's what I wasn't really understanding.
No, you're doing no finesse at all.
And I'm like, I can start putting in stuff that'll work, because I know 3, 4, 5 will work, and
3, 4, 5.
6, 8, 10 will work, and 7, 24, 25 will work, 5, 12, 13.
It's going to do every single one. Try every number with no finesse at all. That's brute force.
Okay.
I'm gonna try 111. I'm gonna try 112. What about 113? 114. Even if it's dumb, even if it's stupid, we're gonna keep going all the way to 11500. That for the first one. Then we're gonna go all the way to eventually 500, 500, 500.
So do you want us to start with 111, even though conceptually the smallest it could be is 345?
I would, just for simplicity and for elegance, but not.
Okay.
But if you know, I'm not gonna kick.
Because you could actually take what you did in the video about whether or not it is a triangle.
Yep.
Technically, and then say if it meets that, then run it through this. So, well, not that, but
You could.
That was my question earlier, was except use that to break out of the loop early.
You could, but what I would do right now, this is a simple, stupid way. Do it simple, stupid. Try every single combination. Get that working. Then if you want to play around with it, go for it. But don't overcomplicate. You want to be just the right. What did Einstein say? You want it as simple as possible, but no simpler. I use that quote a lot because, yeah. And if you have to have an option, overthinking is better than underthinking. Still not great, but it's better. Okay. And here's the thing, a couple of things that I'm not sure I said about programming yet. First off, if your program doesn't work, it's your fault. That sounds rough, but it's true and it's freeing, right? You made this mess, you can fix it. So it's not like you can't blame the government. You can't blame whichever ex-president you don't like. You can't blame your ex-spouses if you have any. You can't blame the system, the man, nobody, no. Are there times you can write a program that Java will mess you up? Yeah, but we're not there yet. So that's not going to happen. So if your program doesn't work, it's because you didn't do it right. So you can fix it. Okay, that's the empowering part. Okay, the other part is that it's simpler than you think. The programs are simpler than you think. When I see your code, I'm like, you guys have so much code that you're trying to write. And I understand that. I did too when I was learning. Okay. How can you tell a programmer that's been programming a long time? Shorter programs. We're not doing all the razzmatazz. We're like, just get right to it. Okay. But it doesn't make it wrong the way you're doing it. But again, when your program has an error, and I think Dana had said that she Googled the error message. That's not a bad thing to do. I understand that, but first think what could be happening. It's a perfectly logical system at this level. Again, it gets holes later, but for what we're doing, it's doing exactly what you told it to do. If you're expecting to print out Bob and it prints out 25, then it's because you told it to. So you have to think, what must I have told it to make it do that? And you can follow through what's happening. Okay. Programming can be panic inducing. When you look at, you're like, oh, it's this blank screen and I'm going to fail and my life's over. Just calm down. Here's the advice that I always give people when you're programming. Work on it for no more than 15 minutes. If you're stuck, then go take a walk. Literally get out of there. You can get into mental states that you cannot get yourself out of without clearing your head. If you go down a wrong path, you just got to do something else. And don't be afraid to do that. And keep thinking, it's simpler than you think. That problem, the Pythagorean number, I think, and I think, Kim, what you said was very true. Because you teach geometry, you knew that 111's crazy. And Virgil had the same issue. Many of you did. But that's not what the problem's asking. The problem's saying start with 111. So start with 111. We don't care about efficiency at this point. We will if you program long enough. But for now, do them all. It's not worth the extra overhead. Okay. But yeah, I mean, programming's hard. And Java's hard compared to Python until you get used to it. And then it all makes sense. So I don't know. What else do you need? What else can I say to make your lives easier?
I guess my only other question was on the encrypting one, the 439.
Yep.
So when we write, it's asking us to write two programs, right? One to encrypt and one to decrypt.
Yep.
But that's not going to be like what we did last week, where it was like the employee and employee test or date and date test?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not creating a new class that you're using. You're creating a program. Kind of a different thing. Which one was that?
4.39. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And I will say that 4.39 is a stretch for us right now. Right? I mean, it is. That anything that's that late in the game and those making a difference, they're less structured, they're more difficult. So if you don't get those, don't lose a lot of sleep. I'm not saying don't try, but those you may not get. When I'm grading, I'm going to be looking at those generously more than the others. Okay.
You mean like that particular problem?
Yeah, the ones that are that late in the numbers, that are in the making a difference in particular. Those are less structured. Okay. What other questions do we have?
Meanwhile, I got that one done, and then I'm still struggling with the 17.
That's because you're a perverse person. I understand I'm that way too. I was always, the hard stuff was easy for me. The easy stuff was hard. That you're just weird, but that's okay. But you know, everybody's different, and things that one person sees, other people don't. And it's hard. I know, I don't know if you guys end up teaching De Morgan's laws. Probably not, because no kid ever heard of them. But De Morgan's laws, it's hard to teach it to people because when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Other people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So how do you make somebody explain something that you see as obvious? It's a real challenge. But a lot of these, you either see them, you're like, okay, there we go, or you don't. Okay?
Yeah, and on those, the encrypt and decrypt one, I put like all my math on one line, and I was like, this is confusing looking. And then when you said that about like if it's shorter, then that's probably better. That made me feel a little bit better because I had all the math is on one line.
Oh yeah, I would do the same thing.
It's like 12 operations or something.
As long as it works and you keep it straight.
Yeah, it did.
I know Java's bad about embedding function calls in function calls in function calls, and it gets really confusing to read. But yeah, it's all okay. But I do think, and if you, hopefully you watch the videos on homework examples I'm putting out there, because what you'll see me do every time is go to the whiteboard. If I were not doing it on a computer, I would do pencil and paper. You have to understand how to solve the problem by paper, or you cannot solve it on a computer. You can't automate what you don't know how to do. You can't make a machine to fold a towel if you don't know how to fold a towel, right? So you have to start with that. And oftentimes when I'm programming, like you'll notice if you did the one on, if you watch the video, I think it's from chapter 4 on the do 3 sides make a triangle. I had what I knew was a triangle. 3, 4, 5 I knew was a triangle. And I looked up one, 3, 5, 8's not a triangle. So I kind of hard code that in and solve that problem in my program and then generalize it for something else. The video I put up just before class, you probably haven't seen yet, was on the factorial table. Okay, another problem you didn't have to do, but it was out there. So you have to understand what a factorial is. And I did first my inner loop, just did a factorial for 5 because I knew that 5 factorial is 120. I got that working. And then I put the outer loop on it to do the 1 to 20. So, you know, you have to keep it concrete. Don't just sit down, read the program, start typing unless you've had some experience. Okay. It makes sense to do a little bit of planning. The little bit of planning that you do will help you out. The problem is if you've had some programming right now, you don't have to do the planning. Okay. But as the course goes on, it gets more complicated. So it's best to go ahead and get in the habit of starting on paper every time. Okay. And I really like the UML activity diagrams. It's kind of an update to the old flowcharts we used to use. Those can be very helpful when you're trying to see something that's confusing. Okay. And again, the big thing to watch for, the book talks about in the nested ifs, you have to make sure that you cover all the cases. The big thing is if it's greater than this, do this. If it's less than this, do that. Well, what if it's equal to? So you got to make sure you're catching all those. Okay.
Is that the case with a switch too?
Yeah, you have to make sure that you're covering every possible case and you're not leaving any out. And do you need a default? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. The default's if none of the other options are caught. And again, I cautioned in the video, that's kind of like the coin sorters that roll down and follow the different tubes. If the first tube's a $50, then the dime's a $50 and the penny's a $50, right? So you have to make sure your case statement is structured in such a way that you get it in the right order, okay? So the case they did was it took a grade divided by 10 to get just a single number. But if you were doing numbers and doing it the whole grade number, and you said something like case score is greater than 60, then it's a D. Well, then every score is a D, right? A 90 is greater than 60, so it's a D. So you would have to start at 90 and go down rather than up. So you have to make sure that the case is hit in the right fashion. It's going to hit in a switch statement. It's going to hit the first one that is correct, and that's the only one it's going to hit. Okay, unless you have the flow through like the book did with the 10 and 9, you can do that without a break. Okay. What else?
How do you get it to go? So how, sorry to keep harping on the 517 one, but how do you get it to go back to the initial prompt if that's not within the statement,
It's
like
not
within a loop?
You have two prompts. That's what I was saying. You have to have two prompts. You
You
prompt
have the initial one, and then there's one at the end of the loop,
exactly.
or two, I guess, because you have to have one for the product number, one for the, what was it?
The
Quantity.
Yeah, but as far as the ones for the product number, there's one before you ever hit the while loop, and then there's one at the bottom of the while loop.
So how does it loop back to the one where you enter the product number then?
It doesn't. You ask the product number at the bottom of the loop, which takes you back to the beginning, and it checks to see if that product number is valid, and then it goes down and asks for the quantity again. It's the product number that determines whether the loop goes on or not. Okay, but you're right, you can't get back to that original one. You can't.
So the second one goes at the end of the while loop within it, or no, outside of it?
No, within it. Has to be within it.
Okay.
Yeah, because once you're
I
out,
guess that's where I was having trouble.
Yeah, so it's before that bracket. There's lots of brackets, and Eclipse adds brackets at weird times. So you can, as I've shown examples before, you can put in comments to say this ends the for, this ends the if, whatever, this ends the class definition or whatever, because it can get confusing.
So outside the switch, but inside the while.
Outside the switch, but inside the while, yes. The last thing,
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. If you're still finding you're getting a lot of errors and it's not making any sense, and Dana, you may be there, not to call you out, but I saw your code. Try to fix it up next couple of days. If not, let's Zoom one-on-one. You know, I think we can fix this now. Anybody, and I think you were brave enough to put yourself out there, Dana. I'm sure other people are in the same place. Don't continue on having those errors because you're getting bad mental structures, if that makes sense. You know, and it's the tweaks are so little to get it correct. I'm guessing a lot of you are there that it's blowing up. It's blowing up. You're like, I don't get it. It's making me crazy. Text me. We'll set up a Zoom. We'll figure it out now. Now's the time. Okay, when our habits are still being formed, to make sure we're not making those errors, because it's all random. Someone made up Java and it works the way it works. It didn't have to. It's not essential that it does, but it does. So it's not that the way you're doing it or anybody else is doing it is impossible in the world. It just doesn't work in Java. So we have to learn the Java way. And rather than, and here's especially, if you find yourself Googling for the answer to why something's not working, why don't you send me a text? Because Google can make you so confused that you'll just want to kill yourself. And that's not good. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but there's a website, Stack Overflow. You heard of Stack Overflow? Stack Overflow.
That pops up quite a bit when I Google things.
It should say abandon all hope, ye who enter here, because if you know what you're doing, Stack Overflow is a great place to go. If you don't know what you're doing, they're going to eat you up. It's like going into a biker bar to get a light beer. You don't want to do that unless you're a biker. Okay. That's a hardcore place to be. And there can be good stuff, but if they sense, especially if they sense you're working on homework and you don't tell them, they will tell you stuff that could damage your computer. or at least make your faculty member reading it said, what did you do? You've lost your mind. So yeah, be careful about that. There are some good sources out there. Tutorial Point has some good stuff. There's Java documentation at the Java website, which I think is java.something. So yeah, there's good stuff out there, but Stack Overflow is probably not a good source to go to. Okay, but don't, and I see this in some of you, and I see this in the students, and it's so weird. It must be a Southwest Virginia thing, is all I can figure. They apologize. Well, I'm sorry, I'm sending you an email. Don't ever apologize. It's my job. Isn't that your job as teachers? If your students come to you, do you say, oh, don't talk to me, I'm the teacher? No. So never hesitate. Don't wait for these meetings. If you're stuck, text me. That's what I'm here for. That's what they pay me for. Okay. So let's fix problems while they're small. This is the time. You should be understanding what we're doing now. And if you're not, time to fix it. Not that you're in trouble if you don't understand, but now's the time to have a reckoning, that let's get it fixed right now while we can, while there's not too much work done, while we're not to the first test, while there have been no real consequences yet. So let's straighten it up. And, those of you that survived the discrete math, I know you have the ability. Just a matter of figuring out the little weirdnesses. And programming's weird. Programmers are weird people. It's just how it is. Okay. Feel like I'm preaching at you now. Have to send out the offertory. Have played it here at the end. But it is important to not freak yourself out, because easy to do. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you. Well, I was just going to tell you, like, I'm bad to want to do my homework on Saturdays, and I guess I feel like it's bothering you because it's your weekend, and I don't want to.
But here's the thing: send the message whenever. If I'm doing something, I'm not going to answer. I'm not obligated. It may be Monday morning before I answer. I mean, it's possible. It depends. Sometimes I'm busy, sometimes I'm not. But yeah, so don't think, what is he doing right now? Should I bother him? I mean, I'm no more likely to be doing something on Saturday than on any other day. It's summer, So yeah, send a text, and I will suggest, well, can you Zoom now? Can you Zoom then? And we'll figure out a time. So okay. Yeah, don't worry about bothering me.
Thank you.
That's okay. Anything else? It's got a chat here from Virgil. Let me see what that is here.
So are our deadlines just kind of soft deadlines if we get stuck on things? Like, it's not.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world right now.
At least with programs, maybe for a test that might be different, but
the tests are the tests, and that's really the hard date are the tests. The only trouble with people turning in stuff at staggered times, I like to grade stuff when it's all turned in, so it keeps me from grading for everybody else, which can be a problem, but that's my issue, so I'll have to work through that. But yeah, I mean, the only caveat there is that there's more coming next week, always. So there's no stopping the train. So by not getting it done this week, you've made your next week harder. Now, if there's something this week that legit is not going to be around next week, you had something at work or something in your life, I don't have an issue, but just be aware, and you're aware that more is coming next week. So you gotta, if you don't get your work, if you get half of it done this week, then you got to get 1.5 done next week. But that's kind of how that goes. And I'm trying not to give a bunch of problems. I mean, I could give a bunch more, but I'm just trying to give enough that you have enough practice that you're going to do well on the tests. And that's the big issue. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Some of you look stressed out. Don't be stressed out. It's okay. It's just programming. How bad can it be? We'll figure it out. Okay. Erica, you look like you need a cold beer. You look super stressed out. Hey, that may help. I don't know. I've never programmed while I was drinking, but I don't know. Maybe a good thing.
Definitely don't think that would make this any clearer, but yeah, I wonder why I'm doing this in the summer.
Yeah, well,
since it started.
To be honest, I'm wondering that too. I'm like, I could not. I'm teaching 2 classes because I'm just dumb apparently. But I don't know. But yeah, listen to music if it helps. I can't do music words. I like Philip Glass. You've heard of Philip Glass? It's something to keep your mind occupied without having words that you have to listen to. I've heard other people say foreign language you don't understand. If they're singing that, you're okay. So find German pop songs or whatever. avoid Italian pop songs. We were on a bus tour in Europe 15 years ago, and the bus driver was Italian the whole time, and he listened to the same CD over and over, and I knew all the words, and they were in Italian, and they were horrible. It's Italian pop music, and I heard one just the other day. It's like 50s doo-wop done poorly. It with in Italian. Oh, it's horrible. So don't listen to that. But yeah. Anyway, it's okay. Well, you're smiling at Erica. I feel like there's progress. You looked pretty stressed out. So everybody struggles when they learn to program. And then the light bulb goes off and you're going to be fine. So I want that light bulb to go off like this week. Okay. So if you're not there, text me. We'll set up a time. We'll figure it out. Okay. Okay. You guys have a good weekend, and we'll probably do Friday again next week. There weren't many on Friday, so if it continues to be Thursday, has a ton more people, then I may do more Thursdays and Fridays, but I'm trying to get the people who can't do Thursdays on Fridays. Okay. Okay. I'll see you guys later. Have a good weekend.